Let's go over cold calling specifically. So forgetting about pattern interrupts for a moment, let's just go into specific script building, okay? So, hi merchant's name, this is Sam with XYZ Capital. Looks like you guys might have been in the market for some funding options for the business. Whatever happened with that? Whatever the opening is, your goal is not to pitch, okay? It's to connect. That's the main point. That's the main problem that I see with a lot of reps is that they get the merchant on the phone. As soon as they hear somebody breathing, they go into their pitch. My name is Sam with XYZ Funding. We offer this, 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 this. Now, in the prospect's mind, you're just another telemarketer, okay? And we want to combat that. We want them to think and see us as professionals and consultants, right? So the main point of your opening is to portray your confidence. Don't pitch, connect, and your tone should be steady, confident, and unhurried, okay? So an example of that is what's called tonality. Now, tonality seems like something like, woo-woo or just weird when you're new, but guys, it is so important. And, it's the body language of a phone call. And you guys know this, body language, people read that a lot more than actually what the person's saying or doing. So for example, let's take, hey, how are you doing? Okay, so I said that in a downward angle. Hey, how are you doing? My words got lower as I finished the sentence. Hey, how are you doing? This portrays confidence. This portrays a professional, okay? Think of a doctor when you go to a waiting room, okay? Or I'm sorry, when you go into a doctor's office after the waiting room and he's speaking to you. The guy is very busy, or girl, but he's a professional. He's been to school for this. He's seen this 1,000 times. His tonality is that of a professional and confident. Now let's take the other way, hey, how are you doing? First of all, it sounds rookie. It sounds, inexperienced. It sounds unsure. So let's just put them side by side again, right? So, hey, how are you doing? Hey, how are you doing? Do you see how one, invokes professional and the other doesn't? So that's what you're going for. So let's talk about the opening. Let's do it in a upward inflection. Hey, this is Sam with XYZ Capital. It looks like you guys might have been looking for some funding options for the business. I hope you guys understand this because this is huge. Now let's take the other way. Hey, this is Sam with XYZ Capital. It looks like you guys were doing some XYZ for capital for your business. What was your situation? What were you guys looking to accomplish with that? Now, I threw in some other things in there. It's like the curious tone for the pattern interrupt, but I think you guys get the point. You're coming off as a professional. Once you've got your opening, now step 2 is your discovery. Discovery and qualification and disqualification, okay? This is the difference. This is how we train people to sell. Because, you don't want to come off like you can work with everybody, all right? You actually want to be a consultant here and get information. You want to ask a lot more than you tell, right? So another thing to think in your mind is you want to be talking a lot less than the prospect, all right? They should be doing most of the talking. So a couple things in discovery, which is going to kind of lead you to discover other things, which might be, the urgency or their qualification is, what were you looking to accomplish with the funding? Okay, or if you were able to get funding, what are some things you would do with the capital? Now, right away, what this is going to do for you is this is going to position yourself as a consultant more so than just the hey, how much do you need? How much do you need? How much do you need? Because the problem with the how much do you need is that we come off as order takers, and we're looking to actually be a consultant of the business owner and be their finance partner. So by you saying what's the purpose of the capital, not only is it going to be a different question that they're used to, but it's also going to give you urgency on the back end. It's going to give you a way to kind of slip in under the wire and decide if this is an actual deal that has legs or not, okay? Because if they tell you the purpose is for payroll, they need it fast. If it's for, investment next year, that it's most likely not going to make sense, not now at least, right? So your goal is to qualify and discover the facts of the file. So you might say things like, the purpose of the capital, what's your credit score, how do you look on your tax returns, what's your time in business, things like this, to kind of get an idea of what you're going to do with the file, and if you can actually help them. This is literally the difference of a numbers game and actually qualifying your prospects. So some more core questions you might ask is, do your sales stay pretty steady, or do they fluctuate week to week or month to month? Is your business seasonal? When things get tight, what's your go-to situation? What do? Do you have a line of credit? Do you go to your cash flow? Is there something else? If we could relieve one financial pressure for you, what would it be, right? So these are just some questions that are going to build a rapport and help the business owner see you as a consultant. The merchant should be doing 70% of the talking. Remember, you're not selling, you're diagnosing, you're seeing if you can help them first. That's the difference. If you listen long enough, they'll tell you exactly how to close them. Guys, side note here, we're going to be in Brooklyn next week. We were in Flatbush, last month. We're actually training shops live. This was never, the purpose of this business. But, for whatever reason, I'm not complaining, thank God. We are going into shops, we are tuning up their reps, we're doing private trainings, we take teams, we take team leaders, openers, closers, and depending on your approach, we tailor specific scripts, and we help them, bring in better files and increase your revenue. I'm walking the pits with your guys personally, helping them open and close. It's all in all a great time. We have 1 day and 2 day intensive options. If this is something that could help your shop, do not hesitate, give me a contact. I'll put the links below, and we'll reach out and see if we can help. Okay, so now you're framing the situation. So you've discovered, what the point of the capital would be, what's the purpose, you have their urgency, you have what they might qualify for. Now you're gonna frame the solution, okay? So, okay, nice. So it seems like if we can get you this, that this will help your business do this. Okay, based off what I'm seeing, I think we might be able to help here. I'd like to price something out for you to take a look at. If it helps your business, I'd love for you to move forward with us, and we can actually get you on the books as your finance partner. If not, there's no pressure. And then you go into collecting your app and bank statements, and we'll get into that right after. But, another few things you could say is, we help businesses like yours smooth gaps, that make them inconsistent. Another one is, our goal is to strengthen your position, not pressure you into something that doesn't fit. Okay, so these are a few ways to kind of value frame before you go in for the end close of the application, where you're closing them on the application. That's a close in and of itself. And guys, remember, a good close is built on the foundation of a good opening. If your opening isn't good, or if your opening is great, it makes the close 10 times easier. If it's not great, it makes the close 10 times harder, right? Okay. So now let's talk about some objections before we get to the final end here of getting the bank statements in the application. Let's talk about first one. I already have something in place. I'm already working with someone else. Right away, instead of getting defensive and saying, oh, screw them, or we're better than everybody, I'm going to get you this, way better, you're going to agree with them. And you're going to say, that's amazing. We love to work with business owners that are just taking the initiative, by themselves. And they're already looking, for solutions to their problem versus just waiting for it to become too big to figure out. And then they're in a worse position. So with that being said, I want you to continue working with the person you're working with. And I'd like to just price something out on the side. Okay, there's no pressure, it costs nothing, and if it helps you, we'll move forward. But if it's, way worse, which I highly doubt, than the person you're working with now, we just pass, and there's no pressure. So that's one way. Or I'm already working with someone else. Okay, great, is that person taking care of you? Okay, nice. All right, so, if he's already doing for you something solid, I still would like to just, put my hat into the ring, because I think I can get you something really good. What kind of approvals did they have for you? Or how long you've been working with them? That's going to give you an idea of how serious this person is. Or if they really are working with someone, usually they're not. And they just don't want to waste their time. This goes back to your value framing, okay? And we're going to cover this in the bank statement part, but if you're having trouble with these, you didn't pitch your value enough, okay? So we're going to cover that. So that's I'm already working with someone else. Your rates sound higher than what I'm used to. Okay, again, you're going to agree with them. You're exactly right. And obviously with this type of funding, it's more of a bridge type of product, and there's way less underwriting than if you were to go to another bank or an actual real bank. This is private equity money, and you're getting it like that. You're getting it within 24 hours. And I've had business owners where I've spoken to them in the morning and funded them that afternoon. So obviously it's going to cost more. And we do have access to the other products that you're thinking of that might be 10-year terms, or they might be a monthly payment. Those just require sort of higher qualifications, and I'd love to run through that with you if that's what you're looking for. And if you go to that point, you're going to go through some of my, you can watch some of my other videos where we talk about qualifying and getting them, the other products. So that's when they say the rate sounds too high. Another one is, I'm not ready yet. Okay, so when they say this to you, you have a couple options. The more advanced way is to build them into a prospect that has urgency when they don't. But I would say if you're new and you're just looking for the basics here, is to just value frame again, okay? And you're going to say something like, well, if you don't need the capital now, that's usually the best time to be looking because, you don't have a dip in your revenue, your credit score is decent. I'd love to just price something out on the side for you, and that way you have it if you do need it, right? Or if the rates are really good and, in 2 days you say, you know what, this could help my business, it's on the back burner ready for you to take. Versus us trying in a month or so. That's one way, or I'm not ready yet. Also is, depending on what the purpose of the capital is, what if the rates were so good you didn't even feel it? And if usually they'll say to you, yes, I would entertain that, then I go into what I just said. Well, let's just price it out and see if it makes sense. So now we're talking about closing them on an application. Let's leave out the application because a lot of shops are different with that. But let's talk about bank statements. I hear this a lot. I keep getting ghosted when I ask for the bank statements, or how do I get the bank statements? Without them, taking hours in between. This is a very simple fix. So if you're having trouble getting the bank statements, you didn't position yourself, as the value person yet, or you didn't position yourself as a high value individual. That's the whole point of this, because if you come off with commission breath, you're not high value. You sound desperate, okay? But if you come off as a consultant, as a professional that's detached from the outcome, they're going to want to give you their bank statements. Now, why is this? It's because they are not going to feel pressure, okay? And they actually think you're going to do the right thing for them. Now, side note here, we train people to do the right thing for them. We want to get them the best possible rates. We want to get them the best possible terms, whatever they qualify for. So if you're doing that correctly, then getting the bank statement should be no problem. Now, with that being said, let's go into how I personally collect the bank statements. What I don't do is I don't say, okay, I'm going to send you an email. As soon as you have time, go ahead and send it back to me. I'm going to go for what's called an assumptive close in sales, where I'm going to say, while I'm on the phone, I verify that I have the right email, and then I say, okay, check your inbox. You should see something from Sam at XYZ Capital, or whatever the email is. Okay, do you see it? Yes? Okay, great. Go ahead and attach the last 4 months of your bank statements. Now, the reason I do this is because I'm assuming that they're going to do it, okay? I'm going to take every shot that I have here to not have any leaks in the process. As soon as I say to them, whenever you have time, then send them, now there's a leak where they might forget, they might get busy, they might get called by somebody else. I'm going to go for the jugular here and try to get them on the phone as I'm speaking to them. Now, we know that doesn't happen in every case. That obviously business owners, they could be driving, they could be busy with their own business, they could be whatever it is. So I'm still going to go for it, right? You're still going to ask out the hottest girl on a date. Even if you're going to say no, you still go for it every single time. And you'd be surprised when you're direct like that and you're pitching your value, they're going to a lot of the time say to you, okay, give me just 2 seconds. Let me go ahead and find them and I'll send them to you. And you stay on the phone for this process. Again, if you're having trouble with getting the application, getting the statements, then that's something to do with your value. You're not pitching your value. Okay, so to kind of end this, once you have the statements, again, remember, you're not pushing them. The best closers do not push, they guide. You're saying things like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and take this to underwriting now. I'm going to give you a call here in a couple hours. I'm pretty confident I'm going to get you something that helps your business. And okay, I'll be speaking to you in a couple hours. What that does is it lets them know you're holding their hand during the underwriting process. You're not just saying, okay, I'll call you back when I have something. You're letting them know tactically that in a couple hours you will be receiving a call from me. Okay? And again, they should be happy to hear from you because they're expecting something good, right? And they're expecting you to give them a good outcome. So that's the way that I do it. There's obviously a bunch of other things. Now, if you're a trainer, if you're the shop owner, if you're a team leader, and you're using this for your reps, there's a couple things to keep in mind. If it's just you and you're the one doing the dialing, that's great, by the way. Kudos to you. You're looking to get better. These are some things to think about yourself. So, did you or did the rep listen more than they talked? This is huge. Okay, they should be doing 70% of the talking at minimum. Okay, did you lead the call calmly? Did you come off fast, rushed? Did you come off like you needed the money, okay? Or did you sound calm? Did you earn the permission to move forward, right? Okay? Did you get them to want to listen to you and let your foot in the door before you went into it? Or did you just, as soon as they said hello, went right into your pitch? Okay? And then the last thing is, did the merchant feel understood or did they feel sold to? Because if they felt sold to, you're going to have a tough time calling them back to give them the approvals. You're going to be relying solely on the rate and the terms, which we like to rely on the relationship, okay? If they felt understood, they're going to be happy to be hearing from you. All right, guys, with that being said, if you want us to come live into your shop, like you've seen on these other videos where we actually walk the trenches with your guys, we help them on openings, on closings, We take them into groups individually and train them, really tune up your guys so you can increase your revenue and fund more deals. There's going to be a link down below. And if you want my battle card, which is, like what we put by the desk of every rep that we train, which has objections, rebuttals, it has, terminology, closes, go ahead and go to the samksales.com/battlecard and you fill out that little form and I'll send it to you for free. Guys, let's have a great December. Let's crush it. Let's go.